Cowabunga, my dudes, and welcome back to a brand new Fake Nerd Cinephile where I dig your vibe. We are rocking here in the half shell to talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. What a mouthful of mutant it is. This is coming out late because, strikes. But we had such a great time seeing this movie, I think. I don't know. I haven't talked to everybody, actually. But I had a great time. I'm so excited. This is one of my favorite things of the year. Boom. Telling you right out front. Here we go. We're going to have a great discussion about it. Hope you're excited. Here we are. Mutant Mayhem. I am Sparkz. I'm joined by Ryan Eliopoulos.
Hey, what's up, dudes? I'm feeling just very tubular today.
And, of course, Ben Magnet.
So how do you guys all feel about pepperoni on pizza?
Perfect. It's the perfect pizza.
Yeah, pretty damn good pizza if you ask me.
Can't disagree. And Brandon T. McClure.
Well, since my hashtag was Blandon for a while, I'll just say I prefer a cheese pizza.
No.
But if it had to have a topping, pepperoni's the perfect topping.
Pepperoni is a good topping.
That's what I like.
There it is. There it is.
Pick the boys.
All right, we're here to talk about this very exciting new animated film for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Let's
sponsored by Pizza Hut.
Let's get first reactions, y'all. Ben. Oh, Brandon wants to say something first. Hold on.
Well, I have the credits.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. I was excited.
Nobody made this movie.
So it's directed by Jeff Rowe and Kyler Spears. Jeff Rowe is the co-director of Mitchell's vs. the Machines, one of my favorite movies of all time. Written by Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg, Jeff Rowe, Dan Hernandez, and Benji Samit.
Nice. Love it.
All right. Now we can get into first reactions.
All right. Benjamin Magnet, let's start with you.
This movie's rad. This movie is just, it is truly a vibe. And I am saying that in all intents and purposes of the word. It is fantastic. I cannot say the last time I loved a Ninja Turtles thing so much was Shredder's Revenge. And I think this tops that. Honestly.
And that just happened.
I know. I was going to say, oh, you mean the last
literally the last thing ever released?
No, this movie's great. This movie's fantastic.
Nice. Love it. Ryan?
I love it. I normally don't go to the movies twice, but Ben, my friend Ben here, asked me, on my day off, like, hey, do you want to go see Turtles with me? And I was like, sure, I like that movie, fine. And I saw it a second time. And it is also it is going to be in my top 15, hands down. I don't know how high it'll be, but we're all nerds. We've all known about the Turtles. I don't know how much, we all have different histories of the Turtles. Like, I think they're cool. I've never loved them. I love this movie. Mm-hmm. If I saw this when I was a kid, this would make me the biggest Ninja Turtles fan on the planet. I can't imagine kids watching this movie for the first time and just how fun it is, and all the fun cameos of all the celebrities that we love also playing fun characters. Like, it just feels like the perfect mix of Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg. They are honestly like the nerd gods, because they know how to transform properties into gold. They did it with Invincible, they did it with Preacher, they're doing it with this. I've done other things that I haven't mentioned because I forgot what they are. But I think this is a blast. I almost have literally no negatives. It's short, it's sweet, it packs a punch, it's got a great message. It's the best X-Men movie released in the last 10 years. I love it. Couldn't be happier.
I will pull off Ryan's energy because I also had the privilege of seeing it twice. I went with friends of the podcast, Jeremy and Xander, and had the privilege of sharing that movie with them because they were like, oh yeah. Well, Xander was interested in seeing it. Jeremy hadn't even seen a trailer. So he went in absolutely blind, and he was gobsmacked.
Did he know that Trent Reznor was doing the score?
He had no clue what he was in for. He had zero idea of what he was walking into. It was a joy. It was a thrill. And seeing it a second time really reaffirmed that I'm like, the first time we saw it, I came out and I was like, man, was that a perfect movie?
Yeah.
And the second time I saw it, I was like, holy shit, that's a perfect movie. And that's where I stand on it. So we'll get into it. Brandon, how are you feeling?
I like it. I like it a lot, but I didn't love it.
That's fine. At least you like it.
I'm kind of upset about that, I'll be honest, because I've always wanted to be into the TMNT. I've seen the movie. I saw the first movie in the 90s. I saw the first Bay film, which I don't really care for. I like the 90s film. I've read some comics. I've seen some animated shows, and it's never really clicked for me as a franchise. It's never really quite gotten me there. And it's always something that I want to keep trying because I'm like, I want to be into this franchise, and watching this trailer, I was like, this could be the one. This could be the one that gets me like into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now, in fairness, I've only seen it once, and so maybe in a second watch, I'll love it. But right now, I fall just below love, and it is what it is. But I am a little upset about it.
You saw this much later than the rest of us.
I did.
The audience will never have context for this. We're recording this a couple weeks after Mutant Mayhem has been out, and Ben, Ryan, and I all saw it when it came out that weekend. But Brandon just recently got to it. Do you feel, not necessarily by us, but just in general, there was an overhyping for you?
That's a good question. It's possible. Certainly that happened when I went to see the biggest example of that happening to me was Mad Max Fury Road, where everyone told me how great it was, and I went to see it. I was like, yeah, it's good. So it's entirely possible that that's what happened, but I don't feel like it is. I would like to give it a second watch though, to see if I do kind of hit that level of, oh, I like this too. Oh, I love this.
Yeah, I asked because I was thinking, like, I definitely know I repost anything that's like praising the movie, just because I want more people to go see it.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe it's a factor. I don't know. Fair enough. Well, I'm still excited to get into it.
Yeah. I think the best way to start is with the core four, the Turtles, because that is the movie. But like, the thing that really, really, really works about this movie is, like, this is all the incarnations of the Turtles. They're teenagers, but like they don't feel like they're 15 years old. Especially like I will defend those produced Bay movies. I think those are a lot more fun than people give them credit for. I think a lot of people went into those just wanting to hate them because specifically they came out at the time during bad Transformers movies. So like, he didn't even make those movies, he produced them. But like, those movies are very different, and those are like 40-year-old men as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? They are very big and hunky, and Johnny Knoxville is one of the voices. So like, we've never really, besides maybe some of the animated stuff that I haven't seen all of, we have never really had, these are 15-year-old teenagers who are also ninja masters. And that is what this movie excels at, is that these guys are expertly trained, but they're also outside doing Fortnite dances. And they're also like swooning over girls that they've never met before. And they're acting like children, as children should act. And you have a dad who should be acting like a dad, but he's also a rat man. And this entire movie is about family and about being accepted, but it's about giant warthog monsters and flying monsters. And it's just like, what an insanely good, fun movie that everyone can enjoy, like on a family level. Like, it's not too gruesome, and like it's like a perfect, like, all ages movie with an incredibly good message that I think like lands really strong. Because again, I care about these kids so much. I love them. I did not want to see them get milked, not at all.
I do appreciate a good ridiculous running joke, and I adored the milking bit, how it came up, especially when it's revealed that that is exactly what's about to happen to them. I want to bounce off of what you said though, which is that they feel like teenagers, and I'm 100% absolutely correct. I think one of the things that works really well is that you cast teenagers to act like teenagers in the recording booth. One of the things that I think this movie succeeds very well in is having the four actors who play the Turtles in a room together, recording their lines together. And you feel that in their dialogue, in their scenes together, because it doesn't feel like it's four kids recording lines in separate rooms at separate times. It feels like four kids talking to each other in the moment, and they're animating around that. And I think that's where the biggest strength of this movie comes from. If you don't have that, the movie fails more than it would otherwise. And 100%. I think that was incredibly smart of them to just go with that route.
If I may, I think the strongest part of this movie are the four leads, are the Turtles themselves. Because I 100% believe, I was hoping when I was watching this, is like, if these kids aren't together, they're doing a damn good job. But the fact that they were recording their lines together, it makes this film even better. Because they're able to play off each other so well. It's so natural. And like Ryan said, and even when the first trailer came out, when I was like, this feels like the teenage part of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles actually feels real. Because for the longest time, even myself, when I was growing up, I would watch episodes of the original animated show. I would see clips from the newer TMNT shows. They were all they were all acting like adults. They were acting like superheroes. They were
like college kids.
yeah, like if they were teenagers that were maybe 19 years old, give or take, I don't know. But this one, it actually feels like, no, these are 100% kids. They're teenagers, and it just gels so well with them dealing with teen. I never thought I would be rooting for Leonardo wanting to go to high school. I never thought that in my entire life. Growing up watching the Turtles or being connected with the Turtles, I was just like, let's beat up Shredder, let's beat up Krang, let's go fight the Foot Clan. Now it's like, nah, you get that prom date, man. You go for it.
Yeah. That's Leon Ardo.
Yeah, don't forget Ardo.
Ardo.
Ben, you said it perfectly. Like natural is the exact word that I was thinking of. Having them all in the booth, specifically with voice animation, that stuff really matters. And like you don't need every single animated project to have that. You know, like really good editors can make all that stuff work out. But like when you have a group of people in a room and you feel their chemistry and their vibe work together, there's so much overlap and talking happening in this movie that a lot of animated movies simply don't do, because again, they don't record in the same booth together. Like it would be manufactured overlapping as when we get in the room together, we're all overlapping and talking, but we're still having a conversation, right? That's like, it's something that's only like actually being friends in a room together can produce. And I feel that through the entire movie. Sure. They're always bouncing off each other. And it feels like these are actually just people hanging out in a room. And that's what feels so good about it. Like it makes all that personal stuff just as fun as the giant Superfly stuff at the end. Like it all works together in sync.
I agree with everything you guys have been saying. I think it's the right opportunity to highlight it's been well reported on the bacon and cheese all the way to
that's my favorite
outside to Yerd, that they're doing their whole thing where they just kind of tangent through each other into memes and all that kind of stuff. That was them letting them just do whatever they wanted. They just had the kids just go off. And I think people have looked at that and been like, wow, that's such an encapsulation, because it's just them talking the way they would talk to each other. And that's so effective. It just really does make them feel like not only kids, but it makes them feel like real characters, like real people. And so it makes them very deeply able to connect to. One of my favorite scenes of them just being teenagers is, it's after a big emotional bit when they are getting milked and they're all talking about the stuff they want to do, and Donnie's like, I would have loved to see BTS. All right, I was like, oh, and Leo's like, oh, we'll do it, guys, ready? They're all trying to sing "Smooth Like Butter," and
don't even know the words.
It's like, you guys exactly know the lyrics.
Exactly that bit, because I could easily see teenagers doing that. And I, even as a teenager myself, I think I tried doing that. It's like, you don't even know the words, but thank you.
Well, I think one of the things that really is interesting, we talked a lot about, I'm gonna bring in another interest real quick of ours, which is comic books. We talk a lot about how there's a lot of younger characters in comics written by 40, 50, 60-year-old men. We talked recently how Brian Michael Bendis has kind of lost touch with how young kids talk these days. And when he tries, it just comes off as a 60-year-old man trying to write a 12-year-old.
Mark Waid is very, very bad about that too now.
Yeah. And so, and it happens because you become out of touch with what I'm 30 and I don't know what these how a kid talks anymore.
Yeah.
But having these kids improvise their lines, go into the memes that are relevant to them, go into the slang that are relevant to them on the day, makes it not only feel more natural, but avoids the pitfall of it feeling like a 40-year-old man wrote dialogue for a 15-year-old kid.
Yeah,
100%.
And I think it helps because despite the script being written by 40-year-old men like Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, those guys are hardcore nerds who grew up with this stuff. And it's like they're just a little bit older than us, but they're old, but they're not considered old. You know what I mean? They're still young enough, but they're old. Like it's a weird thing. Like they wrote Superbad when they were 16 years old, right? And that got made into a movie 10 years later. So like those are still the Superbad guys. It's just, it's so interesting to see like how they've evolved. Like I really like Seth Rogen as a creator. That is a dude who, not just because he smokes a lot of weed and he's the most like, he works so much and it gets rid of that stereotype of people who smoke, can't do anything. I think that's really fun. But that dude is so on with every single project he does. And he puts so much care behind it. And he's still like the laughy ha-ha guy. Like, I don't know if you guys watch Preacher. That is not a funny show. I mean, it's funny, but that is a pretty like dramatic show. Mm-hmm. Like, and Invincible is like, can be very serious. Like, I just really appreciate that he put his whole ass, like this isn't a half-ass project. like I would say this is one of like the hardest projects he's ever worked on, if anything. Like the amount of care I feel in this project all the way around it. I love it so much. Like it doesn't feel like an IP grab.
Well, and more importantly, because Seth Rogen serves as producer on all of these kinds of things, he's very good at knowing who to put on a project that's going to put the passion into it. So like working with someone like Jeff Rowe,
yes,
and knowing that he's going to be able to connect all these pieces in the way, like he knows how to bring people to projects that they're going to be able to bring passion.
It's a good producer. Yeah.
That's one of the things I think Seth Rogen really, really excels at, is he knows how to put good teams of talent together to make something.
Yeah.
Because time and time again, that is one of the strongest things that's happening.
And again, like he talked about it in an interview that it was obviously a collaborative decision, but he was championing the idea of having these kids together in the room together when they're recording, because yeah, he is a nerd. He knows about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He knows about all these things. He's produced The Boys and Invincible and Preacher and all this and all sorts of things.
Damn.
But he's still not in their generation. So he is smart enough to know that if I try to write dialogue for a 15-year-old kid, it won't feel as natural as it did when I wrote Superbad.
Yeah.
So let's have these kids do it, because this is their generation. This is how they will speak, and it will feel a lot more natural to do it, which makes him an incredibly smart creator in general, giving him the credit, but also makes these kids, makes the dynamic between these kids work far better than it has any right to.
I have to imagine that, because there's like 5 people on the script or whatever, right? So like I'm sure they did the first draft and they're like, hey, this sounds like a bunch of 40-year-old people wrote it. Let's get some younger vibes onto it. And then once they got the cast, they're like, hey guys, improv when you feel good, and it'll make it work. And it does work, because again, like that creative team is a improv group in itself. So like this just feels like the perfect culmination of like, you know, like, man, like everything just came up Millhouse on this one.
I also want to highlight that, like, because we're talking about those core 4. I think it was a really smart, and like I think they found the right voices kind of thing. But I'm really grateful that like the Turtles are not all white.
Yeah,
2 of them are white, 2 of them are black.
Yeah.
And I think that's really nice, because there is a lot, and I didn't know how much until kind of this movie was coming around. But there's a lot of feeling like there was a lot of black representation baked into the Turtles, without actually having black representation inside of the production of the Turtles, like going back to the beginning. And I'm glad to see that there are more black creatives getting to be involved in the process.
We'll talk about the music later, but this has like the dopest soundtrack
part
of maybe any animated movie of all time. Like I cannot believe that No Diggity is used in an action scene for an animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie. That is insane. That's the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life. That's crazier than Captain America picking up Mjolnir. Like, you kidding me? This soundtrack's got Tupac and it's got Biggie and stuff. This is a Mutant Turtle movie. It's incredible. It's incredible.
You guys were to jump on the music for a very hot second. Ryan, you said earlier this movie is a vibe. I 100% agree. The entire time, the trailer was a vibe. The entire film is just like, it's like, it honestly, it passes the vibe check, so to speak. It is a very chill. Yes, you get engaged with the characters, you get invested, you want them, especially during the climax of the film, you want them to succeed, you want them to win, and the emotional beats hit. But the whole time, like when the trailer music hits at the end of the film, you're just like, I can't tell you, Brian, you probably saw me, but I was bobbing my head a lot when I was watching this movie for the first time. I was just like, I'm enjoying it. I'm bobbing my head. Sometimes I probably didn't even notice I was bobbing my head.
Bro, music is infectious. It happens to you. It just makes your body do things you don't expect. Man, like the action in this movie, top notch. It looks so good. Again, like doing like whatever this art style is, like it's not exactly Spider-Verse, but like again, like Spider-Verse is the best thing to happen in animation in such a long time. It's allowed so many avenues. Like this is like it look, everything's so ugly. Everything and every person is so ugly, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Every character looks so unique. Every single person in New York looks like they just woke up from the garbage, and I love it. I love it. I think it's fantastic. The Turtles are probably the best looking people, and everyone else just kind of looks like weird goblin people, and I love that. It gives everything a unique look to it. New York looks almost like a Gotham City. Like again, like the vibrant colors. It looks so good on the big screen. It's so good.
I wanna go back to the Turtles real quickly. I have one more thing I wanted to mention about them, which is something that I've always struggled with because I'm not as ingrained in the TMNT as I kind of sometimes wish I was. Is I can never really tell the difference between any of them. And as far as the way they act, and that I don't think the 90s film does it for me, and obviously the Bay film doesn't do it for me. And this time I really felt the difference, and I could actually place, for the first time ever, and again, this is a me thing. This is not indicative of anything other than this is just a me thing. This is the first time where I was able to tell you which one was which and whose name belonged to who. And I really like that. I'm really happy that I was able to connect with the Turtles in that way because of this movie.
So yeah, this is not a negative on the original source material, because one, it was a black and white, but like for decades the Turtles were just, they look the same but they have different colored headbands, and like it was their personalities that were different, and that's totally fine. Despite not loving the movies, the Bay films are actually incredibly influential, because the Bay films are the ones that really gave them distinct looks. Donatello had so much tech, and he's the one who had the glasses for the first time. Those movies really actually inspired the next 10 years of how the Turtles look, to make sure they all look very unique. Like Michelangelo is more of a big and a bruiser because of those movies and stuff, right? So like Raphael, sorry, yes, yeah, Leonardo's kind of the same. But Raphael is more of a bigger bruiser. Donatello is kind of more super techy, wears glasses, has backpacks. Michelangelo, like in this movie, they depicted him as smaller. That's not always the case, but like those movies being weird, those were ones like, no, let's make sure people know who is who. Because like you put those next to each other, none of them look similar whatsoever. And this movie does a good job of that as well.
I'm not going to talk about the Bay films a lot because my dislike of those films is very apparent, and but I agree with what you're saying, of the fact that visually speaking, yes, those films did try to create a visual language for them. But for me,
I know
how those characters acted. I couldn't tell you who was who. Now, visually, if you told me that Michelangelo was such and such and Raphael was such and such, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. But here, through the character, to move it back onto this movie, through how the characters acted, I was able to connect with them on a more personal level and actually care about them. And I really like that they brought him back to the smaller statue that the TMNT are meant to be, not the hulking big Mark Ruffalo creatures that were in the Bay films. Yeah. I really appreciate the visual language of this film and how these characters act, the way they move, the way they speak. It is so, again, it goes back to that improvisational nature of having them in the booth together to allow the audience to connect with them on a far more personal way than you ever have before. And in my opinion, that's it, just reinforcing what I think is the biggest strength of this movie.
Yeah. I think their individuality is very clear, to the point of what you're talking about with like something I appreciated, and it stood out to me more on the second watch, is just how they went about designing the Turtles. I really like it. If you notice, Leonardo and Donatello both have smaller, more narrow heads. Raphael and Michelangelo have wider heads, and then different, body states and things like that they decide to do with them. I think they really distinctly, like when I walk through the toy area of Target or something and I see the Mutant Mayhem toys there, I almost want to get all of them because I don't think any of the Turtles look the same. They distinctly, like, even just if I took off the bandanas and I took off the stuff, I would still know who's who.
Yeah. I love Raph's missing tooth because he just loves to fight. Yeah. I've been dreaming about this moment my whole life. I dream about beating people up every night. Yeah. I love it.
We need to get you to therapy, man.
You brought up the animation, Ryan. So I want to talk a little bit about that because outside of the characterizations, the animation is what I actually do really love about this movie. So it's closer in style to Mitchell's vs. the Machines than it is Spider-Verse, which is apparent because Jeff Rowe is the co-director of both. I really like Mitchell's vs. the Machines. I really like the animation here. It takes it a step further than Mitchell's. It still has that 3D, 2D element that we've seen in these films before. Most specifically, you can see crayon lines in a lot of the foreground and in the background. The kind of moonlit background backlit shot is always stationary. It's never quite moving, and it feels like it is a crayon. There was a big emphasis on how this is as how this movie should feel as if a kid drew it with a crayon, and I think that really comes across
The
in how
greatest
this
artist on the planet.
and I think that really comes across in the way the characters are designed, because not all the characters have symmetrical faces. Some of them have their eyes are askew, their faces are askew. Some of them have like shorter faces and
all
bigger.
The humans are uggo.
And I think that I really like that. You see that in the other mutant designs, and you see that even a little bit in the turtles designs, although the turtles are a lot cleaner than everyone else. So I really appreciate this kind of, again, this pushing the animation format to do things that it was always quite meant to do, it not stay stagnant in this idea that there's only one, where we got to chase that realism for animation. No, we should chase kind of artistic integrity and artistic endeavors, and try to really push the medium and to do things that only it can do. And the next step kind of feels like, okay, well, let's make a 3D crayon drawing. What would that look like? It would look like this crayon, and like you see colored pencil marks in, like, instead of like light, like light, you see the screen and how they tell you it's bright, color pencil marks along, kind of scribbles along the side to kind of create that glow. I just really took notice to a lot of this. It was such a feast to look at. I really just cannot speak enough to how great the animation is.
Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful, beautiful movie.
Yeah, I think the animation's stellar. They do this thing where everything else will be still and stable for the most part, but wherever there's a light source, that will be constantly fluctuating and in motion, which I think is just really cool. It was such a good choice. It's so standout. It's so different, and it really creates a whole vibe. It really creates a whole vibe for the turtles and their world that I think pulls you in. And it's really, really strong. Especially, like, I do like the human designs. I like that, like, they're so kooky, and like, more than anything, we've talked about this before. I like that I can tell that every single one was like designed.
Yes.
That they're not copy paste human generic background person.
Yeah.
Especially when we get into that last scene, it makes it feel more impactful. It makes it feel more connected, and like, I think there is something to say about like a world that would judge the turtles that on some sense is like visually what we would call kind of uggo.
Yeah.
And like that's also very connected, but it's not, it just works. It just works for what they're doing in this world.
You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us.
Yeah.
There's a very Spider-Man-esque to the final battle that I really appreciate. Very reminiscent of the train sequence in Spider-Man 2 and the crane sequence at the end of the Amazing Spider-Man. This kind of like idea that New York comes to rally against its heroes, that New York becomes this thing that cannot be, that has to band together to fight back against the villain, that I really thought worked as an emotional end to the arc of the film.
Yeah, I agree. We'll just talk about that here. I think it was such a smart choice. Ben, do you have anything you want to say about the animation before I go too deep into this? Because that's kind of where we were.
Pretty much that the animation is absolutely amazing. And this, I mean, I know Ryan said it earlier, but I know for a fact this is definitely going to be in my top 10 of the year. Not top 15. It's top 10. It's that good. It might even be top 5. Like walking away from this movie, just seeing this animation, and I was even talking about Ryan for a bit after we got out of our screening, was that animation is just killing it this year. And it's not just like traditional, or not even traditional, but it's not like the run-of-the-mill 3D animation that we've been seeing with Disney films. I'm talking, or even Pixar films. I'm talking like different style of animation. I would even call it unorthodox animation, like Spider-Verse being the prime example on how things are completely different. There's no different universes, different styles of animation, different backgrounds, even with Opie, with Hopi, he constantly changes design every scene he's in. It's completely different. So with the style of this film, with Ninja Turtles being, as Ryan said, a bit uggo design, and everything just looked a little ugly, but it's gorgeous. It fits the narrative. It fits with the style, and the whole thing just works. They found the secret sauce, and it's amazing. I love it.
The secret ooze.
You know what?
If you will.
Yeah.
The other secret ooze is the way that they're able to introduce like 12 villains in this movie, and they all work. And then there's a secret ingredient, like, oh, actually, they're all going to become good guys at the end. I don't think anybody could have expected that. I don't think anybody could have expected that. That like, oh, we don't have to kill to be accepted. X-Men? Are we talking? Is this secretly an X-Men movie all of a sudden? Bro, I loved it. When what's the Gecko Mondo Gecko? He's like,
Gecko.
I don't really want to kill anyone. I was just doing it because I wanted to fit in. I'm like, bro, I get it. That's relatable. I get it. But you're still on the right path. I think it's incredible. All the villains rule.
Can I point out something that I thought was very strange about the credits of this movie about Mondo Gecko? It says
Yes.
and introducing Paul Rudd as if he's a brand new actor, and I think that's really funny.
It's really that brand new actor finally breaking out in Hollywood, the ripe age of 50.
Yeah, it is his first time in a major theatrical
Animated?
voice acted film release as a lead. He's been a cameo in 2.
But people know who Paul Rudd is.
And no, absolutely. And he's been a voice lead in a limited release indie film in 2016, but like otherwise hasn't done a lot of voiceover is the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny.
It's like Mark Wahlberg and Scoob.
Oh jeez. Hey Scoob. Let's go to church. That's a Mark Wahlberg joke. Again, all the villains rule. I love whether they're in the movie a lot or a little. I think every one of them's fun. I like the artist Post Malone, so having him be Ray Fillet and all he does is sing his name and just like do sad guitar ballads that people don't like listening to. Really fun. Every villain had enough personality where like even again if they're in the movie for 5 minutes or they're bigger like Superfly, they all felt integral, and it all felt like two different families forming different ideologies, and then one of them realizes, we don't need to kill people. I think that's awesome.
But a lot of strong voice talent for all those villains too.
Absolutely.
You got Rose Byrne, John Cena.
Yeah, Seth Rogen calling in all the homies.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to also talk about the villains for a hot second is that yes, there was a lot of villains in this film, but they were all unique. They weren't copy paste. They weren't just there to be there. I feel like a bunch of movies where they introduce like where there's a giant cast. I mean, this is probably a very bad analogy. Like with James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, whereas they introduce a giant cast and then they kill half of them in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So those actors and those characters didn't really get to shine. Whereas in Ninja, I mean, of course, that's not a slam.
I don't know.
I mean, that's kind of the joke, though.
They were pretty fire. Get it? Because
I get it.
Fire.
Fell overworth. But now, once again, I don't want to say this as a slight against the Suicide Squad because you all know I love that movie. The Suicide Squad's fan-freaking-tastic. With Ninja Turtles, the caveat with Ninja Turtles is that while all the villains, there is a lot of villains, all of them you can tell they have different personalities. Like, I loved Wingnut. I don't know why, but I can definitely tell, like, when Wingnut's on screen, that you could kind of feel what Wingnut is thinking as opposed to Leatherback, and even with Mondo Gecko. Like, I love how they were able, and with obviously not everyone had a whole lot of lines. There was not a lot of dialogue. Like, Turtles didn't have one-on-ones with everyone because that would have been like a 3-hour movie.
That's what the show's for.
Yeah, exactly. That's what the show's for. But then when you see, like with Mondo Gecko, I think one of my favorite bits is like when Mondo Gecko is like hugging everyone and he's like, "Stop hugging!" No, and,
no,
and then like with Bebop and Rocksteady, it's like, "Hey, I think I'm just angry because Superfly has this internalized anger." Yeah, me too. And then it's like,
is he the reason we've been angry this whole time?
Yeah. Like they have these great I want to like give full props to like Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg, all the writers, because whoever wrote those lines is like, this is how we can do this with this short of screen time. And it works. This is how we give a bunch of these villains personalities. How we know that what their plights are.
Wingbat has like a couple lines, but there's one line that I remember. It's like when they're chasing them after they decided not to join the team. Wingbat's like, "You need to stop," and the Turtle's like, "No." He's like, "If you don't stop, Superfly is going to do something way worse than what we'll do." Meaning that she has some sympathy and she's kind of a nicer person. That's all I need to know for the supervillain.
Right. I was gonna say that's kind of the bit where at least I did. I was like, oh, like they're not all gonna be like
they're not on his
Superfly.
level.
They're not on that level.
Yeah.
They are just like kind of want to hang out and chill like the Turtles. And Superfly's not there.
They just need somewhere to live and eat pizza.
What I was gonna say for some of the villain stuff is that having them be, when you're doing something like this is the first Turtle thing that I think really tackles like being a superhero movie like directly and being a superhero movie in the field of superhero films as they've been, and puts its heroes and its villains in such a good, like any other superhero movie would benefit from a story like this where they're both after the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're both just after acceptance. That's the whole, like, what is the thing they're both looking to get in this film? It's acceptance. It's the same thing.
Xavier and Magneto.
And they're coming at it from like the different angles. And yes, it's very X-Men and everything. But by putting it in that place, it does allow like what I think a lot of other films that have tried to do that, where like a hero and villain, usually because of the villain is usually singular.
Mm-hmm.
But by having the virtue of like all the characters we're talking about, this whole cast that you're prepared to be the bad guys, they're all much closer on the spectrum to what the Turtles want than they are to what Superfly wants. And that's like the revelation over the film that they're able to chase and unspool, is because they all start from a similar place, and just only one of them really wants to take this divergent path. The rest have just kind of been following but didn't want to.
They're all brothers and sisters and cousins. You know, they're all children of Baxter Stockman.
Well, and then at the same time also doing like the parallels of how they are suppressing that desire to engage with the wider world between Superfly and Splinter.
Yes, that's beautiful. Yeah. It's so good. And Splinter has the realization of like, oh no, I'm just like that guy. Oh man, time to do a dope action scene.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Jackie Chan's in this movie. He's great. I don't know the last thing I saw Jackie Chan in, but he's actually like, he's killing it in this movie.
I do think like I've seen Jackie Chan be a voice actor in a lot of things, and I feel like this is the first one where I felt like he was really putting in some work. I have to admit that when I saw the design for Splinter in the movie, my immediate thought was like, Jackie Chan's cool. I'm happy it's him. That's neat and all. He really looks like he could have been voiced by Mark Maron.
Sure,
Mark Maron looks almost exactly like
the glasses.
Yes, especially when they're doing like the like coming up through New York thing. I'm like, Mark Maron would have been a good Splinter.
That's funny. I can't imagine that guy.
I was thinking about Jackie Chan as a voice actor, and Kung Fu Panda obviously comes to mind. He plays Monkey, and I was kind of thinking about that. I was like, in Kung Fu Panda, he's really only in it because he's the main choreographer for those films anyway. So he's not really giving it his all there. It doesn't really have a lot to do in those movies as a voice actor. So coming into this, I was really impressed with how he was able to really bring something to the role of Splinter in a way that made him feel like he was a seasoned voice actor, even though he's probably not. There's a kind of thing that happens in TV animation that we talk about a lot, which is you get these big celebrities to come in and they do these voices, and it doesn't really work because they're not really voice actors. They're mostly just there to fill a poster with big names. And I think what the benefit of having a feature-length film like this one is that you can have a proper voice director actually directing people and getting the performance that you need to get out of them so that they feel like they are a proper voice actor and not just someone to fill a poster. Like it could very easily be stunt casting to have Jackie Chan as Splinter 100%. But because he is able to bring somebody to this role, because he is well directed, because he's acting it so well, it doesn't feel like it is.
Yes. When you real quick, when you look at the poster for this and there's like 12 names and everybody's famous, it reminds me of like any other like bad animated movie that just has like, oh, it's Zach Galifianakis and it's Amy Schumer, and it's just like 40 names. Who could we get who's a big name instead of actually who's good for this part? And this movie,
any Sing poster.
I wasn't gonna say Illumination, but that's what I was thinking of. Okay.
Did you guys see the post? Did you guys get the first trailer? So when I went to see this movie, the first trailer is this really shitty looking animated feature film with just the most terrible animation with the awful voice acting. That looks like it's something. It's from the people who made like Norm of the North or something like that.
No, I didn't get that. No.
And so like I'm seeing this, and I turn to Zara and go like, this looks like it's supposed to be a direct-to-DVD film.
It's the Spider Spy thing. Is that what you're talking about? The Spider?
No, it was a fantasy.
Oh.
It was a fantasy movie. I thought it was a Monkey King ripoff, but it's not. It looks
that
awful.
one looks horrible. There's like a spider who's a spy, like a spider world.
Spider
Oh
investigator.
boy, yeah.
We all had terrible animated trailers.
You know who actually? Go ahead, Ben.
I was gonna say I thought Paw Patrol, but that's Paw Patrol. That's a kids movie. That's like a kids.
I'll be real
movie.
with you. The animation of Paw Patrol actually looks pretty good.
That doesn't look bad.
Listen,
doesn't look
that
bad.
first movie has like a 70-something Rotten Tomatoes. I'm sure it's gonna be a fine kids
Look,
movie.
every time that the little puppy comes forward and says Paw Patrol, but more.
a little bit extra.
I laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is funny.
We didn't even talk about the 3 biggest cameos that were in this movie, and it's the 3 Chris's. Look, I even got the best Chris because the Paramount.
I'm Chris Pine. I'm the best Chris. It's funny to hear Jackie Chan say that.
Yeah.
I that's a good joke. But I do think it's a good way to talk about. It was so interesting the first time we see it with Ferris Bueller, but I really do like the choice to leave real life things that they are referencing looking like real life and not translate it into the animation style.
Yeah.
It didn't take me out of anything. It just really worked.
Same.
And I'm grateful for it. I think like when they do the Kung Fu montage, when they do the joke with the Chris's and Ferris Bueller reference at the beginning, I think all of that lands really, really well.
Yeah, I agree.
Brian, I believe you said something about like shock casting where it's like, hey, we have a big name, it's something to fill the poster up. Not once in this movie did I feel that was just like an actor just walked in, did their lines for 10 minutes and walked out, and it was like, cool, I can afford a new pool now.
Yeah.
Every single actor gave it their all and had
You look at like John Cena, who isn't a seasoned voice actor. He's done voice acting. He's pretty good at it. He's a good actor. But he's not. But he's like acting really good. This is really weird to say because like. This is going to sound really strange. This is just a compliment on the fact that none of these actors were phoning any of this in, no matter how big or small their role was. None of them were phoning it in, and they were all doing a performance, not just giving their voice to the role. Like Rose Byrne is almost unrecognizable. John Cena is, I'm blah blah blah. So like it feels very much like they're having a good time. They're putting in, they're giving, as Ben said, their all to these voice roles, no matter how big or small or how long or short their time in the recording booth was, and that really shows, and that really helps the movie.
Absolutely.
Just because you brought that up, it was a concern of mine that John Cena wouldn't shine through over the voice modulation from the trailers. Just like that he wasn't going to come through. He does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm really grateful.
And
for
he
that.
Probably has like some of the least amount of like he doesn't have a lot of lines, but like when he does talk, I'm like, no, I can tell it's John Cena. He's having fun.
We've talked about a lot of the cast and a lot of the good casting and the voice talent they put behind it, but we need to talk about the man in the room, Ice Cube. As Super
6 a.m, police at my door.
That's
an Ice-T song. That's really funny because that's an Ice-T song being performed by Ice Cube. That's really funny, right? That's really funny, right?
Well, okay, so the 2 actors, I mean, obviously the main cast, April O'Neil, she is absolutely amazing. I love her. But the 2 actors I also want to talk about was Jackie Chan, which we did, and I want to put my 2 cents in because he was phenomenal. Absolutely love him as Master Splinter. And also, I just loved how he learned kung fu from a teach yourself kung fu VHS tape. Thought that was hilarious.
On that note, real quick, Ben. What I really liked about Splinter in this is that for I think the first time ever, he felt like a dad first.
Yes.
And I thought that was the most valuable thing about it, is that he felt like a father and then a master second, where I feel like a lot of other times he's kind of like a master who's like guardian of the turtles.
He feels more like a sensei type of thing.
Yeah. And they kind of treat him that way. But here, not only does he feel more like a dad, but it feels like they're treating him like their father too.
And they call him dad. They call him dad. They call him dad more than they call him Master Splinter.
That you start the journey with him being a dad and like, to defend ourselves, we must become ninja assassins. Not
so the obvious thing we needed to do was become ninja.
Obviously, as you do.
Great montage.
Oh, those little turtles, the cutest. I would buy little plushies of those cute little baby turtles.
1000%. I was about to say those turtles are adorable. I love the line where he's just like, because you were given your you were given the ooze when you were babies. You grew up like normal, and because I was given to it as an adult, I became an adult rat. It makes sense. Don't think about it.
Yeah, I was an adult rat. So when I transformed, I was also an adult in transformation.
Yeah.
You were babies, so you transformed into babies. It makes sense.
Absolutely.
I really like that montage sequence. That when that baby turtle comes up to Splinter and just like nuzzles,
Yeah.
just melts your heart.
Little baby Donnie with the oversized glasses.
Oh,
Jackie Chan was pretty good at delivering his humor too. Like I'm thinking about things like there was a roach named Carl. He was my only friend. And then I ate him.
Oh my gosh. All the stuff with him and like how many adult mutants do you think there are in the world? Do you think I haven't looked? Because I promise you I have.
Every day
I look. And then he meets the Vermin Master who's like
How aware are you guys about the Vermin Master thing?
Besides like it being a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles character?
Like the changes that happened just before release.
No, I had no idea.
So a character poster got out that was supposed to be a queer relationship. That was essentially they were going to say that was going to be referred to as a him and all this kind of stuff.
And they did.
Well, they had to nix it because Jackie Chan doesn't support.
Because
LGBT.
Jackie Chan kind of sucks. That's right.
Yeah.
That's true. That's right.
Interesting.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Google that if you don't know, y'all. It's that. That's a bummer because that would have been really fun. Because there was a whole stink online of people who haven't seen the movie, and there were clips getting released of the Vermin Monster and him kissing. Like, oh, they made Splinter gay, bleh. And I'm like, first of all, no, they didn't do that in the movie. But second of all, who cares? Who would care?
Yeah,
I guess Jackie Chan, so that sucks.
Someone was like, it was the line where Jackie. Because the argument that I heard was that the line where you think I haven't found other mutant rats because I have. There are no other mutant rats, so I'm alone. I'm lonely. And so other people, people were saying, "See, that's how Splinter was made." Like mutant rats. He's a mutant rat. Of course, he's going to look for mutant rat. What are you doing? What are we? Again, it just goes back to this manufactured outrage that this whole clickbait system is built off of.
Something to get mad at this week.
But anyway, going so Jackie Chan Splinter, really cool. He's the dad. We were gonna get into Ice Cube.
Ice Cube.
Ice Cube as Superfly. Man, he kills it.
He's so fun.
He's so good.
Yeah.
Jeremy put it very well, so I'm not gonna like copy him without saying, because I think he's the one who said this most pointedly, which is like Ice Cube is one of the best actors on the planet at saying the censored word without saying the censored word.
Oh, sure.
So you hear it even if he doesn't say it.
Yeah.
And so like there'll be these lines where he said, "I'm on that Godzilla," and like you don't hear the word shit, but
you're thinking it.
But you think it. Like that's and he's very, very good at landing those lines without saying the censored words. And he does that a couple of times throughout this movie where like he's just pulling a word out and it's there. In his delivery, it's there.
Again, like he feels so natural as this giant gangster monster fly man. It just feels so good. Like, of course, like that's exactly what he'd sound like. Like it just everything about this world feels feels just so real and so perfect. Like I have no real problems. He's so fun. The turn at the end where he goes into a zoo and it's like, why are there 100 horses in a zoo? I don't care. Let's not think about it too hard. There are no horses at a zoo. We got horses everywhere.
Or like when he gets like he absorbs all the animals, and then one of them pops up. He's like, "Fine, I don't need that horse.
I don't need that horse."
What did Mondo
Such a good
Gecko
joke.
say?
God, one horse. I don't need that horse.
What does Mondo Gecko say? He says, so if we put the thing in the ocean that was supposed to make all the animals mutants, what does that do to Superfly?
Yeah. So that they said like, and there's things in the ocean. What does that do? Because that's the line. And I need to specify that because I was sitting next to Xander and Jeremy when they saw that. And I already knew what was going to happen. And they both turned to each other. They were like, Street Sharks. And I was like, shit, man.
That would have been incredible.
Shit, man. If Street Sharks had come out, I would have lost it.
That would have been this is a secret, like Void Rivals, a secret universe blooming.
Yeah.
God.
The fact that Street Sharks is owned by a different company has never pissed me off more.
Yeah, right. Well, like, because Street Sharks doesn't hold up. Like, visually design is cool, but like, they are not. It's not a good show.
I'm big and dumb.
but boy, do they fit into the world of the Turtles really well. Obviously, because they were a response to the Turtles. But like, that would have been sick as hell. Like, just to be able to have the street shark show up, I would have been like, oh no.
Y'all, we haven't talked about April O'Neil at all.
That's true, but I didn't want to leave Superfly yet.
No, true.
I want to shout out, like, Ice Cube. We were talking about, like, voice actors not coming in, phoning it in, and it really popped off to me. I noticed it in the first time.
Molly
the second
Whopping.
time, he goes the extra mile with some of his words to put the buzz of being a fly into his emphasis.
Yeah.
So he'll do the little, like, as he does it, and I was like, man, you acting, Ice Cube, you acting.
I agree. Yeah.
So I guess we should move into April.
I love April O'Neil.
April's very good.
I'm also I am an Ayo Edebiri stan. You now watch The Bear.
Well.
So like she's just an incredible new talent. Even though she's been around for a long time, she's really blossomed in the last couple years, mostly because of The Bear. But like, I love this take on April O'Neil. It's really cool to have her be young and the same age as the Turtles, growing up instead of being like an established reporter. Like, she gets to grow with the Turtles as a character. That is so cool. They both go on journeys of why they're doing what they're doing instead of like, oh, I want to be a superhero so people notice me. Oh, I want like.
And they both start out doing it for personal selfish reasons. Yeah.
And like, that is every character, whether it's a villain or a hero or a side character, has an arc in this movie, and it's all fulfilled, and I love it, and I'm like so excited for the future of these characters. She's just got Ayo Edebiri has just such a quick whip smart, like just the way she talks. That's perfect for this type of movie. I loved every interaction she had with the Turtles. I just loved it.
And I just want to shout out, because I'm tired of people being upset about April's design things because they're obsessed with the version they've whacked off to since the 80s.
Yes.
But I really shout outs to Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for making April black.
Sure.
And then shout outs for this one for going for body positivity imaging.
Yeah.
And like, April just looks like a person, and like, I think it's great.
She's like short and like kind of like wide. I'm like, that's a person. Yeah. That's a realistic person right there. I love that.
I love April's design, and I do really like her performance, and the way that they translate her character into this, I think is really good. Especially, I think she's a really good tone balance to these four turtle actors. She plays off of them very well. She plays very well as, like, while she is in the same age range, there's a sense of like maturity of the world, just like with more sense about how to interact with people, because they haven't interacted with a lot of people. So there's a social awkwardness that they have in engaging with her that she's just a little bit upper on. Yeah. But even she is also like, you think like, oh, she's very cool and everything. We get to the high school and it's like, she's also low tier comparatively. Boy, the vomiting joke, never would I have known more that this was Jeff Rowe than that joke.
Yeah.
So the high school interaction is really interesting to me, and I wanted to highlight it. I was kind of thinking about how to frame this, but I'm just going to go right out and just say that I really appreciate the fact that the way it's handled when they're making fun of Leonardo, and April kind of gets in on it and feels very much like kids kind of piling on without knowing that you're hurting someone, and not knowing, and then when Leo kind of fires back, well, what about that person? When we make fun of that person, and then being April, and then April kind of snaps out of it, and there's something so real about it that gave me such a visceral reaction, and kind of a oh, I remember being a kid. I remember doing that. Hell, I remember doing that last week. There's kind of there kind of goes to what I think this movie does so well that I've talked about the entire time, which is that the interactions feel so real and genuine. This felt like five teenagers, one of them who's never had a friend before, finally kind of thinking, oh, I can jump in on this too. Oh, wait, I'm also not, my cover's blown. Now they know that I am this puke girl.
They're both kind of outsiders in different ways.
There was just something so genuine about the interaction that I just really wanted to showcase and highlight. I really appreciated it.
Mm-hmm. And I really love that she meets these mutant turtles and she's not immediately just like, she's cool with them, but she's not like, cool, we're never going to talk about it. This is totally normal. It's like, hey, so like, be honest, do you think other people will be totally cool with her vibe? And she's like, absolutely not.
And she's like, yeah, if I hadn't met you in the context I met you in, I would have freaked the frick out.
Yeah.
But like, as it is, I see you guys are like,
you seem pretty cool. Yeah.
I love how April O'Neil, and this iteration of April O'Neil, once again, I am echoing everything you guys are saying. Absolutely adore her. Absolutely love her. It is fantastic. And it's like, yes. But I kind of like how she's a bit of a realist, but she's not. She has that. Obviously, there's a lot of Gen Z flair to this film because, I mean, a bunch of Gen Zers are actors in this film. They're teenagers. But with her, she gets that Gen Z snarkiness, but it's not mean snarkiness, you know? Like the scene we just mentioned about, like, hey, do you think other humans are cool too? She's like, not even close, dude. You're lucky that I like you guys.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's weird because she's bringing that, what's the actress's name who plays April again?
Ayo Edebiri.
Her. I'm not even going to.
Let's call it Ayo.
Yeah, what she, oh, God damn it. I lost my train of thought.
Name's too hard.
I'll bounce off something around Rachel while you kind of get that thought back, which is that I really like the line. I like showcasing lines whenever I can, but there's a line where they're like, our dad is definitely not a giant rat, and then she just goes, that makes me feel like your dad's a giant rat.
Yeah,
and I just really like that line.
I really like. Oh, go ahead, Ben.
Sorry, I got my thought back. Io brings a lot of realness to this fantasy film, and it makes it work. Like, once again, the whole film must have found gallons upon gallons of secret sauce where it's like, this works.
It's ooze.
And yeah, they found the secret. Also, I just love that interaction with Superman. I was like, we just call it ooze. Nice, right?
It just sounds better, yeah.
Yeah, ooze. But she brings, like, yeah, this is what an actual teenager in high school in the year 2023 would react should they find a bunch of giant mutant Ninja Turtles, and they saved her life and they saved her scooter from getting chopped up.
Yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, not Giant Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's the Asylum spinoff.
Yeah.
That's the Gamera take. What I really like here with April and stuff, a gag I really like is when they call her to tell her the plan that they have of like working together so that they can become heroes and all this kind of stuff. She's like, oh, cool. I haven't really been thinking about you guys at all. And she's just been writing questions, all kinds of things about them now that she's seen them.
Do you guys have ears? They think they have
ears.
Great.
That pays off because he actually touches his ear to talk to April because he's got an earpiece in.
Little earpiece?
Yeah.
Got to free the holes.
They've got the freeze holes.
Ooh, let's talk about, because we haven't really talked about like the actual overall villain of the whole trilogy, Cynthia Outram. Do you guys know who Cynthia Outram is?
Maya Rudolph.
I mean the character.
Oh yes.
It's Krang. Yeah. Outram.
Mm-hmm.
The Krangs are from Outram. They're Outrams. She's got a weird face. She works for the TCRI, the Techno-Cosmic Research Institute. That's Krang, or she's working for Krang. They either gender bend her, or it's his sister, or whatever. But like, they have done the incredible superhero thing of, we are setting up our universe, but we have a self-contained story here. We know what the next movie is going to be because that's what the post-credit stinger is about, and it's all building up. And I'm like, man, this is how you build a universe, and like you set up sequels, but it's all self-contained. Like, this is like a perfect superhero movie. Really is.
If I may, once again, growing up with Ninja Turtles as I have, not a whole lot, but it was always Shredder and then Krang. Shredder was always the big bad. Obviously there's other villains thrown in there. So when I saw the trailer for this movie, the very first trailer when it came out, it's like, oh, there's no Shredder? Who are they gonna fight? What's the deal? Now I am so glad that Shredder is not the first big bad they fight. I am so happy that it's all the other mutants. And also I love how, like, we talked about how they kind of switch things around, how they make the origins a little bit different, how Bebop and Rocksteady, they were grown from Baxter Stockman's tubes. They weren't turned into mutants by Shredder.
Good way of doing the Stockman Superfly thing too.
Yeah.
Good interpretation of that. Giancarlo Esposito, shout outs.
Yeah, shout out.
That was also a very cute fly. That was not fair. That was a very cute fly.
Yeah, I would never thought I would see a baby fly and go, oh, that's cute, but they got me in this movie.
Murder fly.
Yep, turned into a murder fly. But the whole, like, I was a little nervous because, you know, Shredder is always like, you talk about Ninja Turtles, who's the main bad guy? Shredder. Always Shredder. Now I'm like, no, this works so well. And I am so excited. Like, just that silhouette of the post-credit stinger, I'm like, hell yeah, I'm ready for Shredder.
We talked about this when the first cast listing came out, when it was announced who all the people were. You and I, Ben, the fact that the Shredder is the first villain in the 3 major TMNT films, films. He's the major villain in the Bay produced film. He's the major villain in the 90s film. He is. And so going forward and showcasing a different villain was probably the smartest move they could make, because Shredder is the most recognizable villain. But if you're trying to get people interested in the Turtles in a way that will get them wanting to come back for more, you don't start with Shredder. You start with someone else, and then you build. And I think where this was really smart.
Absolutely. It's almost like Batman and the Joker. Like, everybody knows the Joker. Like, people love the Joker, but like, Batman has other villains. And the team
Batman, the smartest thing that Batman Begins was Big Scarecrow, his first villain.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And like TMNT, like this first one, not only did they not give us Shredder, they gave us a dozen other villains, because the TMNT has been around for so long. They have that many villains, and they have so many villains, they can turn all of them good, and they still have enough villains for the next 2 movies and a TV show. Because like, again, Ben and Sparkz, we played that game. Not all of those villains were in this movie.
Oh, no,
I can't wait to see that arcade lady, the villainous arcade lady who brings things to life from the arcade. What's that about? I want to see.
Also, it was a blinking and missing moment, but there was a like a billboard or a thing that the Turtles crashed through in the van that had a big orange Triceratops head on it.
Yeah, You're right. Those big boys we beat up.
There are other places we can go. Yeah, it's cool. And we have them on the board.
Ooh, this is fun. Because we know the next movie will probably be Shredder. I'm sure the Cynthia Outram stuff will be around, but it'll be probably the Foot and Shredder. Do you think we'll get like the Robo Turtles, or like the mutant, like evil turtles? Like, what do you guys think? Because we went through so many villains. What do you think the Shredder like mini boss would be? What does your mind think, Ben?
I would say the Robo Turtles.
That's what I'm thinking. Something like a Metal Sonic, something like that. Like
yeah.
We've got so many like evil mutant turtles or those Robo Turtles in that game. I'm like, man, the possibilities are like endless. I love it.
I'm so curious at how expensive that TV show is going to be.
I bet it's
definitely not going to be the same animation style.
Yeah,
they're going to have to change it.
I'm sure it'll look similar, but it'll be like a 10th of the budget.
That's the thing that concerns me. You want to do a TV show based on this film? Great, I'm in for it. I'll go see it. I'm just so curious. Like, do we keep the animation style? Do we tone it down? Do we try something different? Do we pretend it's at the same world and whatever? Like, I'm so curious.
I'm sure that it will be the same world. I think they're just going to change the style.
I mean, doesn't How to Train Your Dragon have a TV show?
Yeah, but it's the same style as the movie.
Oh, well then they can just do that, right? There you go.
But with this animation, it's so specific. It's so the Jimmy Neutron thing doesn't really work here. By that I mean the Jimmy Neutron the movie was made so that they can make the TV show look more expensive by just using the same assets. That works for How to Train Your Dragon because you can just drag and drop the same assets. I'm not sure if that process can work in a similar way for a movie like this, which has a lot of hand-drawn situations and a lot of hand-drawn things. I'd just be curious to know how they do it. I'm sure they can pull it off. I'm sure it'll be great. I'm just curious.
I think they'll want to keep the same aesthetic, but there's no like, it's a dream world that like, oh no, we're just gonna have this show for like 8 episodes.
Yeah.
But like, I'm sure it'll be something similar. Just like, I just hope it doesn't look like Netflix bad, like bad 3D Netflix. Like, I hope it doesn't, like, they don't drastically lower the quality so they can keep something that looks similar. Just make it 2D, if anything. Just make it look 2D and have it have the same style. And honestly, I think most people would be happy with that.
That's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah.
It seems at the end that Outram has Superfly. In his original fly form now.
Yeah. Like he reverted back. Yeah.
So he can always, because all of the things that were part of him did.
Yeah. He can come back in the sequel.
He can come back someday.
Mega Fly.
I want to highlight a couple of things. Which one? I just want to say I really love the speed lines that we get when we're doing like super fast sequences. The background just blurs and you just see like speed lines. I think that's really cool. Felt the same way about Puss in Boots, honestly. The first fight scene that we see with the muggers who stole April's scooter, I think is really good and might be my favorite fight in the movie.
Yeah, it's great. They're all over the place.
I love how they use the environment. I love how they're learning on the fly, no pun intended, of trying to figure out how to use these weapons to actually hurt these people. It's a really good kind of it's a really good character building fight sequence that is utilized to the best of its ability. I just really like it.
Quick little line that I absolutely love. I've been dreaming about fighting every night. Hey, we need to get you into therapy, Raph.
Yeah, dude, his like the zoom in on his face with how like excited he is to cause pain. I'm like, man, like I love this kid, but he definitely needs to go talk to somebody.
The Donatello in that moment being like, I ended up with a stick. How did I end up with a stick?
Which is a good.
What am I supposed to do?
A great callback later where you can use, man, I need something long and hard so I could do the gap.
Yeah.
Like every joke almost has a comeback. I think my personal favorite fight scene, and it is almost like a montage, but it is a no diggity fight.
Oh, it's
scene
100%.
Where it's match cutting between the 4 different crime families they're fighting. That is probably. I've seen a lot of movies this year. That might be my favorite sequence of the year. I'm not even joking.
Across the Spider-Verse is overall a more impressive and I really love it animated film.
Yes.
But for me, the no diggity sequence is going to be the animated sequence I'm going to leave the year
Absolutely.
thinking about.
Dude,
all the time.
It is so perfectly. Whoever edited this shot specifically deserves an Oscar. Like truly, that whole sequence of like all the different guys rising up at the same time and it's just cutting between them and the 4 turtles using their different weaponry. And the director said itself, this is inspired from Old Boy, which is one of my favorite movies. So anytime something is inspired by like, I'm like, oh, I love it. It's great. But it is so seamless. And again, it's Blackstreet's No Diggity, which is in a PG animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie. That's just something that like would never happen in any world.
They have this really fluid rotating shot near the end of the montage where like the turtles are going through their action beats, but it's changing the location that they're in as they go. And it does such a good job of showcasing them all center. I like that every time they burst through a door, it's not, unlike the picture behind us, it's not Leonardo.
Yeah.
Always at the head of it.
Yeah.
And they go after some of the most dangerous criminals like Normal Nate, who's just an upstanding businessman.
God, I love all that. I love it.
I'm just an upstanding businessman.
Or like, what, like talking
Toupee Tom.
Yeah, no, I don't talk, but if I were to talk, love it. It felt like, again, like the parts of this movie feel like really good, like Spider-Man stuff. It's just like, it is a really good superhero movie. And like, it's weird to think that like, these guys, they are superheroes. Like they are from comics. They are inspired from Daredevil. Like it's weird to think that like for 30 years, I've never really thought of them as superheroes, but like they are vigilantes. It's like, this one is
they're
like
all Daredevil.
They're all Daredevil. Yeah. Stick is Splinter, like all that stuff. I love it. I'm just so in love with this movie. I think it's great. I really, really wish it was doing a little bit better. Like I'm not worried about the future of the franchise, but like this is one of those movies where like, man, if this would have came out at a different time, like it could have made twice as much money because it really deserves it.
The thing that's so frustrating to see about a film like this not doing as well as you think it should is that, you know, to be fair, like animated films have been doing great in general this year outside of Across the Spider-Verse, which is great. It's wonderful. Even Elemental had to have legs in order to do better than it started at. And I think this film will absolutely have legs. People will come to it. And I think that there is an unfortunate stigma probably against the TMNT towards the general public. They're just not as interested as probably should be. But you look at films like Into the Spider-Verse, Puss in Boots, Mitchell vs. the Machines, which didn't actually see a theatrical release, so it's probably not a great example. But the idea that the audience, that we're seeing such interesting and experimental things happening in animation spaces, and you have these movies that are critically well received and are definitely things that people are saying, hey, go see this because this is something different. This is not something we've seen in the animation space before. This is something that's pushing animation to something that you, as the audience, have never seen before and will likely not see again because they will keep pushing into different avenues, into different features. And to see them not doing well in the box office is kind of a bummer, because you want the inventiveness, you want the experimentations to do really well so that you can keep pushing. And on the other side of that, it is nice that the creators and the studios, to give them a little bit of credit, are still willing, even though they're not doing as well as we want them to, are still willing to keep pushing the animation these things are doing even further and continue on this experimentation. It's just nice that they are still allowed to exist, even though they're not doing as well as you want them to.
So this movie worldwide has made $100 million, and that's like a little bit over its budget. This movie, like, surprisingly didn't cost that much, because I think just, producing it the way they did, like, they were able to like be really cost effective. But like, this is not a success. Like,
and no crunch, and there was no crunch. And
there's no crunch, which is great. But like, with marketing budget and all that stuff, like, this movie's not making the money it needs to be like a huge success, which really bums me out, because like, no, I don't think this is like better than potentially Across the Spider-Verse, but I do think it is on par. I think it's better than
Super Mario Brothers.
It is infinitely better than Super Mario Brothers.
That dumbass movie.
Oh my god, too much money. Made over $1 billion.
No offense, Ben.
Made over $1 billion.
No. Hey, Nunte. Hey, I came out of that movie the same thing you guys. I wanted to love it. I just enjoy it, and I like the soundtrack a hell of a lot more, especially when the soundtrack was actually in the film. But that's neither here nor there. Although I will agree that this movie not making as much money as Mario Bros. Is a freaking crime against humanity. But because this movie is, especially with this TMNT movie, because I was thinking back, because there was, for a time, I felt like that we were getting a lot of Ninja Turtles properties. I mean, not like one after the other immediately, but there was like a new Ninja Turtles property, be it a new television show or even a new movie in the works. So I was, when this movie was announced, part of me was like, oh, another one? Okay. I mean, the Ninja Turtles are popular. I do enjoy them. I didn't see the one where it was just TMNT, it was just only the first letter. I did see the Bay films, and I did enjoy the Bay films for what they were.
That 2007 one's good.
Yeah, and then after walking out of this one, I was like, this is probably my favorite iteration of the Turtles ever. And that's coming from someone who did grow up singing the original Ninja Turtles theme song, who loved the original cartoon, who played the arcade game at Chuck E. Cheese with us, where there was a slice of pizza waiting for me. And this one encapsulates what the Turtles should have been. I mean, of course, you look back at the original comics that were made. They're dark, they're black and white. The Turtles look mean and angry. But then you see this one's like, these are teenagers. This is like seeing them evolve throughout the years into this being the next iteration is perfect. It's like they are teenage mutant ninja turtles.
Yeah.
And they have character. They have great character development. They have great character arcs. They're not just like the stereotypes that we've known them throughout. I mean, yes, Donnie is very technically inclined, but the fact that he's driving, he's a kick-ass driver, is just like fantastic. I absolutely love it. Like when Splinter goes, Donnie, you should be driving. He's like, all those years of playing Forza paid off.
Oh, Splinter says, you shouldn't be driving, but if you were to keep driving, you should turn left. That was pretty good.
I love this movie. Like Ryan said, I have no negatives for this film.
I'm so excited, because again, it's already been like announced, like we're getting a show and a sequel no matter what. So
which encourages me, because it shows that the studios have a lot of faith in the artists and what they're creating, and like going to support their vision.
Yeah, and like this movie might not be making gangbusters, but like word of mouth has really helped it continue to go along more than initially, and people love this movie critically and the regular people.
I think it can be an Into the Spider-Verse situation where, like, Into the Spider-Verse didn't do as well as it should have either.
Sure.
When it came out, because it was in competition with Aquaman and people just weren't convinced by the trailers to go see it.
Oh, sure.
Like it did have good word of mouth, but like the box office on Into the Spider-Verse was not what the long legs of when it went to Netflix and everything and people saw it later would have generated.
Yeah.
And this could be a similar situation where just Mutant Mayhem will not necessarily have the huge success of box office, but when it gets to home video, people might be like, yo, what? Why did we sleep on this?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. Like I think this is very much an Into the Spider-Verse situation. I don't remember the box office for Puss in Boots, but I know that it wasn't as great as it could have been, or as it should have been. I know it was probably better than Into the Spider-Verse, but this is very much a situation where I do believe that once this film hits Paramount Plus, people are going to find it and people are going to watch it. People are going to love it.
It's like one of those. It's like on when you're on Twitter and someone's like, "I just watched Dungeons and Dragons. How come nobody told me this movie was good?"
And everyone's like, "We all did."
Because the 10 people who did see it were screaming about it and nobody listened.
Or
It's
it's
always,
like
it's always that
earlier
situation.
or earlier this year when people were like, "Hey, so video games have like I just saw The Last of Us, and video games have like story like that." And every video game player is like, "Yes."
How's that going, Ben? How's that watch through going?
There's also
Shouldn't have brought
when
it
you
up.
look at something like Into the Spider-Verse, a good example would also be Across the Spider-Verse, because Across the Spider-Verse did better than Into the Spider-Verse. It had really good legs because people found it and people were excited about seeing the sequel. And I think when TMNT Mutant Mayhem 2 or whatever it's going to be called, TMNT 2, when it comes out, because of the legs that I believe it will have on streaming, that movie will do better, and it will it will get the money that this film deserved and that film deserved.
I absolutely think that. I think this movie is so good that it will reach people who probably initially wouldn't have seen it.
Oh yeah.
You know, like I think it merits, like, I don't think you have to be you can watch this movie not being a TMNT fan, and I think it can turn you into one. And if not, you just watched an incredible movie anyway. Like, you don't have to be subscribed to the whole universe. You just watched a great movie anyway.
I was talking about this with Ryan. There's another point I wanted to bring up about this movie. I was talking about it with Ryan when we got out of the film. The film is only an hour and a half long. It does not feel an hour and a half long. It feels like a 2-hour epic, but it doesn't feel. But the thing I love about this movie is that the pacing it's fluid. You don't feel that's an hour and a half. You feel like you just walked out of a 2-hour epic film, but no, it's only been an hour and a half. You got extra 30 minutes. It's not like earlier, like Super Mario Bros., where it's just like boom, 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 boom. Like you're constantly speed running, no joke intended. You're speed running through the movie. Whereas this one, it takes time where it simmers. And when it's action packed, it's action packed. And you're invested the whole time through, that it warps your reality of time or your concept of time. And I really enjoy that. I think that's the sign of a fantastic, well-paced, very tight, very essentially well-made 90-minute film, because it does not feel like 90 minutes.
Right.
It's tight.
Yeah, it's got a lot packed into it. I think they do a really good job on delivering on everything that they're doing. I wanted to highlight some things like the bowling scene where they all go together and hang out.
Oh yeah,
I think it's really great. I think it's really great for a couple of reasons. One is the way they split the turtles up with bonding with different sections of the team. You got Raph with Bebop and Rocksteady, and they're all just like punching shit.
They're doing the punching machine.
Yeah. And I think all that stuff really works. Also, I wanted to highlight that the neon animation for all of them in there, because they're in this blacklight neon stuff. It really pops. It's really, really vibrant for all the characters. It really looks cool. I really, really like it. And then it has one of my favorite lines they make Ice Cube say, which is when he's talking about, like, you know how people have dog shows and horse races. Well, maybe we'll have, redhead shows and fat booty boy races.
Fat booty boy races killed me. And he says it so fast. Fat booty boy races. Like, what did you just say?
What a benevolent leader. I'm open to all suggestions. No wrong answers, but pitch your ideas.
My seems all right, if you ask me.
The Rachel's moment when she runs into the film studio and she swallows back her puke. April. Thank you. I'm sorry.
She runs into the studio and she champions for the turtles.
Yeah.
That sounds like a point I was about to make, but it's gone.
I think that's a really good beat where she has to swallow down the puke, and they already have the graphic of the mutants that features the turtles and the rest, and it's like no, they're actually fighting the giant kaiju.
And then she does puke, and they just zoom in.
They just
don't worry about it.
Tighten up, and she's like, "Don't worry about that."
Again, I probably would have been okay if this were a different arc where it was like, oh, the turtles are hated, and like they have to work to gain the respect of New York. Like, I would have been fine with that arc too for the trajectory of like the next movie and stuff, right? But they don't do that.
No,
they don't do that. They do the positive side, and they do acceptance and like, oh no, these people are trying to help us. And the dude who goes to reach his hand out and Splinter is scared.
I'm so glad that it's Splinter and not one of the turtles who first gets helped by him.
And he's like, yo, do you need help? And like, he doesn't care that he's a rat man. Like, he cares that he's like New Yorker and he needs help. And I love that. And of course, he needed the information first. But like, I think that it's cool that he was just like, yo, let's help you out. And then there's the Spider-Man moment of everyone, all the humans helping out, throwing the shit around. I'm like, this is incredible.
I want to point out something that Jeremy pointed out to me, and I thought was like, damn, dude, you're right. a lot of people would you say everybody in New York is helping out the Turtles? Everybody's getting involved. You got all kinds of different people.
Yeah.
Is anybody missing that you would expect to be part of that party?
The police.
The police.
Yeah.
The police do not help.
100%.
It's really, really cool.
They know what they're doing.
Firefighters help. The police do not help. And there is only one cop kind of at the end who walks into frame and goes,
we did it
at the end when it's all done. And I was like, damn,
good catch. Yeah,
pretty good commentary, y'all. Pretty good. Yeah, I thought that was, God, that ending scene is just, it's really, really well done.
It's a super fun
and
like chase / like they gotta blow up this big horse whale.
The arc for Leonardo at the end, getting them to like, you know, we were like April, we were doing this for the wrong reasons. We need to just do this because we should help. And getting them to recognize like what's the thing you're better at, even better than Mark Ruffalo? Improv. And Donatello bringing him in with the Attack on Titan stuff, which is so good.
Yes.
I can't stress to you guys enough how much they're like, they really are connecting with the generation because they're so deeply not only referencing Attack on Titan, but directly using Attack on Titan as a plot device of how they figure out to stop Superfly.
They do the thing. They do the salute. Like
they do the salute. Like they figure out like it's on the back of the neck, just like the blowhole. And that's how they're going to beat him.
This movie
integrating that is so cool.
Yeah, this movie, it's very reference heavy. But I was never distracted or it felt out of place or it felt like, you know, this is product placement. Like, you know.
No, it felt like kids who like things.
Yeah. And like the way we bring up like nerd things, like them just bringing up Avengers Endgame didn't feel like, oh, they're trying to throw in a big pop culture reference. Like, no, we do that shit all the time. And like, it just felt natural. And like, I'm glad it didn't feel forced. And again, when you have older people writing, like it just, everything felt natural, as you said earlier. Everything felt natural.
Yeah, that just goes back to the fact that these kids, being able to riff and being able to throw out pop culture references as they would in their own conversation is not doing it because some computer somewhere said this will make X amount of money if you say Attack on Titan. No, this kid likes Attack on Titan. They even said in the interview, like, the reason why this Attack on Titan reference is in it is because the kid who plays Donatello is a fan of Attack on Titan.
Dude,
he's doing that.
The kid who plays Leonardo is so funny. I don't know if you follow him, but he's like straight up like anti-fascist, very much like anti-cop. He's like, while he's promoting this movie, he was putting stuff on Instagram and TikTok where it's like, it's a picture of Leonardo, but with his voice going like, yo, F the police, as his, it's just like, this is really awesome. They really got incredible kids to play these characters. And I'm really excited to see them grow. Cause like, they're teenagers, but like, is this a franchise where we see them grow into like young adults? Because that is super cool to see too.
That's what I want. Yeah.
Yes.
There's also a really great interview you guys should seek out. I don't remember which one it is, but it's where the kids are sitting with Ice Cube and they're telling him the lingo of like today, and like Ice Cube getting the generation smack of like, nah, I don't know. They have to explain rizzing to him.
Yeah, charisma.
The kid who plays Raph, he's the big one, right? Raph?
Yeah.
He's one of the kids from Good Boys. And Mighty Ducks Game Changers, where he's the lead. I really like that kid. So I'm really happy to see him here again, even it's just to hear his voice. I'm really excited for that kid's trajectory and all these kids now that I've never seen any of the other kids, but I'm excited to see where all they go in their careers because I think they're all very good.
Yeah, I really like all their voices, but Raph, he's got like a great like kind of like raspy voice, and I just really appreciate a good raspy kid, like especially like a kid being able to do that. I'm like, man, I love these guys. Like it's like it feels like, you know, we are involved in so many IPs and so many different things, and it's like I'm not really invested in TMNT, and this isn't like I'm not going to start reading all the comics immediately, but like I am now invested in this TMNT universe. I am ecstatic to hear the next news we hear about whatever happens next. I am a full-on believer in this specific chapter of the TMNT universe. I think it's just heavenly. A far cry from the, you know, dark black and white mature Daredevil version from the 80s, but like they're both valid, man. Like I love it. I think it just goes to show how cool adaptation can be, like when done right.
Yeah. Leonardo's voice also was one of the gumballs.
Yeah, that guy. He is really funny.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, I've seen that kid do other shit before, like during Gumball 2. That guy is really good.
He's also apparently in the Walking Dead: The World Beyond.
Oh, that's the good one we want to watch.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
This kid's making me a believer.
Yeah. Some just other things I wanted to highlight. When Splinter is doing the drunken master trying to save the boys fight, and he ends up in the locker crate with all their gear.
Oh, and he comes out.
That's really sick.
And he comes out like
he's got all their stuff on. I thought that was really cool. What does that machine say? Does that say milk machine?
Yeah, I told you.
It was like the Mega Milker 3000 or something.
Yes. Yeah. We didn't talk about the bit specifically, but the hey, what's going on? Especially when they slam the brake and they launch them through the windshield. Hey, what's going on?
Yeah, they used the meme version of Two Non-Blondes. Hey. And I'm like, that is a 10-year-old meme song. Like, that is definitely a Seth Rogen thing. That's not something a 15-year-old does. That's really good.
All right.
Yeah, all the music, just score and needle drop, just really, really.
The way that Trent Reznor's and Atticus Ross of Nine Inch Nails fame, they did Watchmen and The Social Network and like all of David Fincher stuff, and they also are doing an animated TMNT movie. Like, man, the balls, the respect, like they are so good. This is such a like. This movie looks gross, and this soundtrack sounds gross. It sounds grimy. I love the electronic grime that is like I love it. I've been listening to it on Spotify a lot. Also, the name of a lot of the track listing is really funny. It's like "Kill the Shreks." This is the Mark Ruffalo track. It's really, really funny. I love it. Again, from top to bottom, everything about this movie. It's like.
And the one other thing I'll highlight is that this film does ask one of the most important questions it could possibly ask in the world of the Turtles. What is their last name?
Nardo, Angelo, Raphael.
Tello.
Oh,
Tello.
Trent Reznor did Soul.
Yes.
Yeah. Killing it. What a cool dude.
All right. Anything else you guys want to bring up, or I think that'll do it?
I just love it. I think it's great. Like, I can't, like, I will definitely like watch this again on Paramount. I'll just like put it on just because like whether I'm looking at it or listening to it, I'm having a great time.
We'll watch it on 4K downstairs.
Oh,
off the Steelbook.
The big FU TV.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that'll do it. So why don't we rate it? Ben, why don't you go first?
There's no other rating for it. It's a 10 out of 10. This movie is. I have no negatives. This movie is solid, beginning to end. It's fantastic. Pretty much I'll just be repeating everything I was saying earlier, but this is definitely the best Ninja Turtles media I have seen in a very, very long time. I mean, not to throw shade at the other ones. I know, like, I've seen the fight scene from Rise of Ninja Turtles, the one with Shredder and Cassidy Jones and everything. Fantastic animation. But this one is just the bar is up, and it's fantastic, and it's great, and I cannot wait for more.
Casey Jones. You corrected yourself to say Cassie Jones, which is interesting.
No, and in that show she's Cassidy Jones, but her
it's a girl.
Her full name is Cassidy.
You're right.
Or Cassandra,
right.
Excuse me. Her full name is Cassandra, excuse me. But yeah, it is Casey Jones.
You're right. I watched 5 episodes of that. Why didn't I know that?
Sparkz? No, I just know from that one little fight scene that they post online all the time.
It is dope. I've also only seen that.
Me?
Sparkz.
Oh, me? Oh, I mean, is anybody shocked? It's a 10. It's it's so good. I laugh a lot. I love a lot. I have no qualms. I was just completely endeared to the world, to the characters. The humor is so strong. I'm so glad I saw it with again with folks like Jeremy and Xander, because people laugh at all kinds of things I don't expect them to laugh at. Like Jeremy just like lost his shit when they have this bit where they're walking back through the subway and there's just a bunch of teens on the platform.
Oh, and they're going under?
And they're going under, and one of them just says, "Man, I love being young and free to go wherever we want."
Yeah.
And everyone's like, it's a great movie. It's just a great time. It's a great hang. It's a great vibe.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
I was the only person in the theater to laugh at that joke.
It's a good joke.
It's a good joke.
Ryan?
It's also a 10. I I know I love this movie, and discussing you guys like this, it's shooting up there on that list, man. Like, I don't know if this is like gonna be my favorite movie of the year, but like the way that I feel about it now, I'm certainly more positive in my feelings than like most of the other movies that I've given similar high scores on. Like, there's just something about this movie that's like, it's just really special. And like, again, the fact that it's animated and like something like this like doesn't get to get made all the time, it just feels really special. And I just really appreciate it. Again, it's a franchise I don't really like care about a lot. It just goes shows like anything can be good, anything can draw you in. You know, just put love behind it, and it'll show up. Yeah, 11 out of 10.
Well, I'm going to give it an 8.5. I don't have anything negative to say about the movie, quite frankly, but it doesn't connect with me on a level that it did you guys. And again, going back to what I said in the very beginning of this episode, that yeah, I like this movie. I like this movie a lot. I didn't love it, and I wanted to love it. I wish I did love it, but it didn't hit me. It didn't get me to the point where I was just like jazzed about it and like whooping and hollering and like want to think about nothing other than this movie, like I have even another Jeff Rowe film, which is Mitchell vs. the Machines, which I think about constantly. Like every day I'm thinking about that movie. Like unfortunately, I just didn't love it as much as I wish I did. So for me, it'll be an 8.5.
Hey man, that's still a incredibly high score.
Oh yeah. Very respectable.
Okay, well that'll do it, guys. So thank you for joining us on this TMNT Mutant Mayhem review. That was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Happy to be back after the strikes. Happy you guys to get to see this. So be sure to check out our website where you can check out all the shows that have been impacted by the strike, so you can catch up if you're interested, or you can check out other things, other shows that you maybe didn't know we had, or whatever you want to do. Everything is on the website at fakenerdpodcast.com, which is linked below. If you'd like to support us financially, you can of course check out our TeePublic and our Patreon, which are also linked below. And you can check us out on our socials at Fake Nerd Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, fakenerdguys@gmail.com. I'm at BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter. You can also find me writing for CBR.com, AtomicGeekdom.com, and KaijuRamenMedia.com. Ben, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me training to take on the Shredder at BenMagna27, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Threads, and you can also find me writing for Old School Gamer Magazine, Fusion Gaming Magazine, GoNintendo.com, and playing Mary Frankenstein in D and Dark. New episodes out Wednesdays. Well, actually, I don't know when this is coming out.
Yeah, you don't know shit, man. You don't know shit.
You're right. I don't know shit.
It's 2025.
Man, you could be on season 2, season 3. Who knows by now?
I could. Who knows?
Ben, it's 2026. What are you talking about? D and Dark has been canceled for 3 years.
The show doesn't even exist anymore.
The internet's been down. Nobody's watching this.
Sparkz, where can we find you?
You can find me probably getting into Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles really soon. And Sparkz Witty on Instagram and Twitter. SPRKZ Witty also having played Shredder's Revenge. And probably, honestly, at this point, the DLC with these guys and Grayson, which isn't out at the time of recording, but is almost certainly recorded by the time this is released.
True that.
And Ryan.
Hey, you could find me joining Grayson, Ben, and Sparkz. Playing Usagi Yojimbo, or Karai, the daughter of Splinter. I think that's the case, or the adopted daughter of Splinter from the comics. In the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles DLC, it's a long outro at DJ Tony Snark everywhere, all the time.
All right, guys, make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, subscribe on your podcatcher of choice, rate and review wherever you get us. And until next time you see us, guys, stay fake nerds.
Cowabunga, dudes.
Cowabunga, dudes.